Sounds great.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios in Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, BEC unions enraged by recent comments made by Chairman Leslie Miller and how they plan to do something about it.
We have sent directives from Bimini to the north, to Inago and Cricket Island to the south, that no employee is to work any overtime. So when the light turn off in the night, expect the light to stay off in the night, or call the chairman. Tell him come and get the bucket truck, and tell him go up on the pole and fix the light.
The Prime Minister explains why illegal web shops remain open. Plus, the family of a murder victim speaks up. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and MB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to MB12. Scores of Bahamas Electricity Corporation workers gathered in the parking lot of the Blue Hills plant today to express outrage over BEC Chairman Leslie Miller's comments yesterday that some workers are criminally abusing the overtime system and costing the Bahamian people millions of dollars. Royston Jones has the story.
We have sent directives from Bimini to the north, to Inago and Cricket Island to the south, that no employee is to work any overtime. So when the light turn off in the night, expect the light to stay off in the night, or call the chairman. Tell him come and get the bucket truck, and tell him go up on the pole and fix the light.
BEC line staff starting today have refused to work any overtime for at least 30 days because of comments made by Mr. Miller.
Bahamas Electrical Workers Union President Stefano Green says Miller's incessant public bashing of BEC employees has gone too far, and the union has had enough of the continuous lambasting by Miller. He said that Miller should explain that overtime at the corporation has to be approved by management, and if the chairman wants it stopped, he has the power to make it happen immediately.
The union will also assist in the reduction of overtime with the corporation by asking our members to stop working overtime immediately. Let me say that again. We will ask our members to stop working overtime immediately. However, we refuse to accept that he will allow foreigners and contractors to come in to do our work. Seeing that overtime being paid to the staff is a problem, then monies being paid to contractors on the outside should also be a problem, and it should not happen. Let's see what happens to this country when the staff and employees at BEC stop working overtime, because it's not going to be pretty.
Green said the impression Miller has given the public is that employees have been stealing from the corporation, which he insisted is far from the truth. He said he welcomes a full investigation into Miller's allegations of criminal activity. And here's what Green said when asked whether employees are making as much overtime, more than $11 million last year alone, as indicated in an internal report.
I don't have the figures and I don't have the numbers, but I can tell you this. It is possible if the corporation asks an employee to come out to work every weekend or every afternoon, it is possible that if the corporation authorizes it, it is possible for the employee to work it, because they only could work what is authorized. They only could work what is asked of them to work. And if it wasn't authorized, they wouldn't have been paid.
Both BEC unions have said that understaffing in critical areas is a serious concern and the main contributing factor to high overtime. Green said the corporation has not shared the internal audit with the union, and it is very surprising that the information was leaked. Meantime, Bahamas Electrical Utilities Managerial Union President Irvin Dean, who stood in support of line staff today, said he's instructed his members to only work planned overtime that has been formally requested by the general manager or divisional heads. Executive members of the National Congress of Trade Unions, Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union, and Public Managers Union also joined the quiet protest. NCTUB President Jennifer Isaacs-Dotson said the Prime Minister, Minister of Labor, and Minister of Works needs to intervene and advise Mr. Miller on how to proceed so that industrial harmony may continue at BEC.
The management of this corporation must be held accountable for what is happening at the corporation, and That is what the chairman should be examining. He should be examining the status of the management of this corporation, and maybe the management needs to be removed from this corporation and a new management put in place.
I sent an email to all managers, and we simply said that as a result of what the executive chairman said yesterday, as provocative as he was, what we have done was we decided to be proactive and tell all managers not to work any overtime unless it's pre-approved by the general manager, effective tomorrow. So we gave them 24 hours to get their plans and proper planning together, and then come and say to us prior to it that we need you to work overtime.
Miller has also said BEC plans to introduce a shift system in February to stem the high overtime payouts. But Green said the union has rejected the system and is not prepared to discuss any shift system until some members of the executive management are removed, Miller among them.
What the actions of both unions will mean for the corporation and the country remain to be seen. For NB12, I'm Royston Jones.
With less than 2 weeks to go until the webshop gaming and national lottery referendum, Prime Minister Perry Christie continues to defend his government against criticisms of the process, chief among them why webshops still remain open when their illegality has been acknowledged. Celeste Nixon has that story.
Prime Minister Perry Christie said closing gaming webshops prior to the January 28th referendum would have been a costly exercise that put thousands of Bahamians out of the job before gaining public opinion on the matter. Speaking to NB12 outside of Cabinet this afternoon, Christie said, because of the anticipated high cost of closing down illegal gaming operations, the government has decided not to move forward until the vote. Additionally, he said it is up to the Bahamian public to decide the fate of the reported 3,000 webshop employees, and his administration did not want to add to unemployment levels before the vote. He said if the outcome of the referendum is a no vote, webshop workers would either be unemployed or try to continue to operate illegally.
The government of the Bahamas have to invest, I imagine, in millions of dollars worth of people's resources to stamp out web shops if in fact there is a no vote. And we're not prepared to do so. We looked at other countries where they had this in transition, where they moved from an illegal regime to a legal regime, and we said we'll do the same thing. There are thousands of people who are employed in this industry, and it's going to be a tremendous exercise to adjust the country to that reality, because people will be without work, or alternatively they'll go deeper underground and continue to do what they're doing with the hope that they will escape the reaches of the law.
Responding to additional questions as to why the government has not put forward the drafted webshop legislation that would regulate the industry, Christie said he wasn't going to spend money out of the public purse before knowing the referendum results. He noted that under the Gaming and Lotteries Act, the necessary legislation is essentially already in place, and rules only have to be introduced to facilitate internet gaming.
And we are today we have the Lotteries and Gaming Act of the Bahamas that applies to casinos in the Bahamas. The games that the web shops are operating are similar to those operated in a casino. The very same games that are operated, except for those that are done on the internet. We weren't prepared to spend resources on trying to put in place something before we know exactly what we have to do.
Responding to criticisms by former PLP chairman Reynard Rigby, Christie said he was not shocked by the comments. Rigby has criticized the wording of question 1, saying it implies that webshop gaming is already legal. Describing Rigby's comments as nonsensical, Christie said the government has gone through the proper consultative process, meeting with religious leaders and advocates both for and against the gambling questions.
I've seen Mr. Rigby with his comments, right? And you cannot regularize an illegal event. We were advised that the question was sufficient, that if there are people who disagree, we have said the questions are the questions going before, and those are the questions we put in the regulations, and those are the questions that will go unless some court application stops it.
When asked by the media why the government failed to launch an educational campaign, Christie said he has turned over the responsibility of the referendum to National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage. However, he said people have been playing numbers in the Bahamas since the 1900s, and they are aware of the issues. Christie said the pros and cons of gambling are being put to the public. Reporting for MB12, I'm Celeste Nixon.
Well, pastors of the Save Our Bahamas campaign committee say that the Vote Yes committee is grasping for straws with this latest announcement of possible share offerings in web shops should they become legalized after January 28th. President of the Bahamas Christian Council, Reverend Dr. Ranford Patterson, today said that the government should not allow the Vote Yes committee to make such inducements to sway the decisions of voters.
Their aim is to target a different group of people in the country. They feel as if they can get the people who support them anyhow. Now the aim is to try to reach people who perhaps are not interested in numbers, interested in buying numbers, but who perhaps might want to see this as an investment. And I think it's wrong. I call on the government again to put a stop to this.
If a drug dealer was to come on television or go to the newspaper and say, listen, I'm thinking about opening 100 marijuana shops. I'd like to offer the Bahamian people an opportunity to get in an early piece of the pie by offering shares into that business. We would be outraged as a country.
Well, the pastor said the government is in a very critical position because the eyes of the world are watching the Bahamas as it makes this decision. They said if the government allows web shop bosses who are now operating illegally to then operate legally without recourse after the poll, the Bahamas will be the laughing stock of the world.
The world is watching this referendum, as we noted earlier. Every jurisdiction where gambling is legal, if anyone has ever been associated with illegal gambling, they are automatically disqualified from ever obtaining a license to operate legally. We're facing this country, and you can check all jurisdictions around the world. That is the standard.
The Vote No committee is planning to travel the Family Islands next week for their campaign and will hold a mass rally on Saturday, January 25th at R. Bailey Park. Stick with us. Coming up after the break, family members of a recent murder victim say police need to take domestic violence reports more seriously, plus how police plan to prevent more murders. We'll tell you more about those and other stories when we come right back.